think often we feel so overwhelmed by the size of the problem that we lose a sense of what we're supposed to do. Like, what is the action I'm supposed to take? But you've just listed some extremely simple things we can all do. We can all go and pick up litter from our local park. We can all go to a beach if we live by the coast and help collect litter off the beach, or help a neighbour in need. You know, we've all got the propensity to do that. But I think sometimes we get lost in the size of the problem and think, well, A, that's not going to count, as you just mentioned, but also where do I start? But it's simple stuff.
Simple start. And you know, this saying that goes round and round irritates me so much. Think globally, act locally, but do it the other way around. Act locally, understand that all around the world there's people just like you taking local action. Then you dare think globally.
Yeah, and we've had to do that to an extent with the pandemic, but it's been on this really acute matter. And you deliver this extremely important message at the end of the book, saying, yeah, you know, of course, we know the pandemic has caused huge amounts of pain and trauma for people, but we must not get distracted, because the far bigger threat, and this isn't something that we see on the news every day, it's perhaps a story when there has been an extreme crisis, but the much more imminent threat is the climate crisis and the loss of biodiversity. But we're so distracted still.
Yeah, except, you know, there's one, well, I don't want to say it's a good thing, because for some people it's devastating. But the fact that climate change has now affected parts of Europe with flooding, that it's affected New York, New Jersey, and Louisiana and so on, with terrible, terrible flooding and hurricanes, and destroyed whole villages. The fact that it's now coming to the wealthy countries who've been responsible, after all, for creating all these greenhouse gases, you know, that's a wake-up call for people who have felt it's nothing to do with me. Now they realize it is to do with me. And if we don't change, this flooding can come and devastate me. And these fires, which are because the planet is warming up, they might come to me. I mean, these fires in Siberia, that they're so huge that the government's given up. They're not even trying to put them out.
Yeah.
So, you know, we I think it really is like a call to action. I think it's going to wake up more people, but governments, will they wake up?
I don't think so anytime soon, because the pressure's been on for so long, and we still witness such corruption and also oblivion to it, seemingly. And I think that's when we can feel hopeless too. Like, why aren't the people in charge of, you know, whole countries and states doing stuff? But you know, we can't rely on them. I think we've realized that.
No, we can't. I mean, you know, they just today I read that Britain is opening up a coal mine.
Oh.
Yes. And Australia's got all these coal mines destroying a beautiful area. And it's very depressing, but makes me angry. I'm going to get more people to understand that what they do does make a difference.
I mean, when we're looking at these situations, which are scary and cause anger, they're two reactions we're going to have: fear and anger. What place do fear and anger have alongside hope? Are they useful, or are they merely debilitating?
It depends on the person. In some cases, it can lead to depression, despair, and that's sort of the downward trend. But, well, if I take myself, we need the anger, but I don't think there's any use fighting the responsible people by pointing fingers at them, by accusing them, challenging them. I think what we have to do, people must change from within. We have to reach the heart. And to reach the heart, well, for me, it's telling stories that can, and you may not even realize that you did make a difference. You may leave a meeting thinking, oh, well, I tried, I did my best. But then sometimes you find out later, my goodness, that person did change. And maybe maybe it was that story I told him that reached into his heart.
It's the heart, isn't it? It's like you just described a moment ago with the big CEO and his kids. You know, your kids are going to go straight to your heart. They're not going to point fingers and throw stats at you. They're going to make your heart hurt because they're saying, Dad, you can't do this to our future. And it's so interesting. Such a huge part of what I do with this podcast, I think, really is just letting people tell stories, and then we all have a greater understanding of each other, and or if it's global issues like this, to really see the human level and the human impact. It's, as you say, it's got to hit the heart.
Yeah, it has to hit the heart.
It has to hit the heart.
Yeah.
What about action without hope? Does that just lead to apathy?
I'm not sure. I think if your action doesn't give you hope that you've made a difference, well, you're cynical or a little bit simple. I don't know, because anybody with a reasonable brain, when they've done something that's made a good difference, will understand that.
Yeah.
But there are these three huge problems to be solved, and sometimes they seem insoluble. One of them, perhaps the easiest to address, is to alleviate poverty, because if you're really poor, you can't make those ethical decisions, and you destroy the environment because you've got to get some money to live, to get more land, to grow food. Secondly, which seems very hard for many people, but kids get it, and that's to reduce our unsustainable lifestyle. I mean, my lifestyle's unsustainable, even though I try. I expect yours is too. I mean, we have privilege and we have more stuff than we need.
Yeah.
And, it's not suggesting everybody goes back to, being like a hermit and living very, very, very simply. No, that won't happen. But just to think about what you buy and how often you buy, and do you make waste and that sort of thing. And then finally, which kind of underlies everything else, if we discount corruption, which somehow I don't know how we get rid of that, it's beyond me, except through our youth who are beginning to understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, the third one that we must at least think about is our growing human population. The 7-point-something billion of us now. I thought it was 7.2. Somebody told me it was 7.8, but over 7 billion. And already we're using our natural resources in some places faster than they can be replenished.
Yeah.
And by 2050, that's round the corner. It's supposed to be closer to 10 billion. So if we carry on with business as usual, which some people seem determined to do with their head in the sand, then what's going to happen?
We're in deep trouble.
Yeah, we're in deep trouble.